And now we'll get to updates on South Korea plane crash. South Korea's acting president, Choi Sang-mok, on Monday ordered an emergency safety inspection of the country's entire airline operation system once the recovery work on the Jeju Air crash is finished. The acting president, who was only appointed on Friday, visited the site of the crash on Sunday. South Korea's deadliest air accident ever killed 179 people on Sunday when an airliner belly landed and skidded off the end of the runway, erupting in a fireball as it slammed into a wall at Muan International Airport. A day after Muan disaster, another air passenger jet reportedly experienced a landing gear malfunction on Monday. The Jeju Air passenger jet that departed Gimpo Airport in Seoul for Jeju experienced an unidentified landing gear issue after takeoff and returned to Gimpo, where it landed safely. The Jeju Air crash is the worst for any South Korean airline since the 1997 Korean air crash in Guam, which killed more than 200 people. The Muan airport crash also marks the first fatal accident for Jeju Air, one of the South Korea's largest low-cost airlines, which was set up in 2005. The disaster is a national tragedy for South Korea, which has been embroiled in a political crisis after President Yoon Suk-yeol and his temporary successor were both impeached by parliament. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden said on Sunday that the United States is prepared to provide any necessary assistance to South Korea. All right, our correspondent Anil Thomas gets us more. Anil, we've just given the broad updates to our viewers with regard to the air crash. Get us more on the investigation. What more can you add?
Tragic incident that's taken place in South Korea. Clearly, looking at the political crisis that the country is currently embroiled in, doesn't give much of, breathing space, especially for the political power. And there seems to be some kind of unity that's actually, arisen, considering this worst fatal accident that South Korea has seen. Remember, the last time that we saw such a fatal accident was the Air China plane crash that killed almost 129 people on board. Before the one you mentioned, where 200 people had lost their lives. So, in distant memory, these are the two big crashes that the Korean soil has seen. And remember, it's tough time, especially when it comes to now the inquiries being ordered and, civil aviation experts asking questions on, bird strike and bad weather. How are they correlated with the landing gear not opening? Because, now this is where, when the US investigators, the National Transport Agency that comes into play, the National Transport Aviation Industry comes into play, that's from US where the experts will flow it. There'll be a lot of answering that needs to be done. This exactly, the landing gear malfunctioning, especially in a Boeing, is something that even Boeing will have to look at because there are close to 101 airlines that operate in South Korea, the same make, the same model, the Boeing model that we're talking about that's seen a crash. So it's going to be tough times, especially for, some tough answering that needs to be done, especially once the plane had landed on its belly. Why was the plane not able to deaccelerate? That's the big question that civil aviation experts are asking. Secondly, the fire and security department, especially where were all the fire engines that needed to be there at the place when they realized the captain, as soon as he knew that the plane was about to, he had already announced Mayday. So there was little bit of time that the airport authorities had, especially when it comes to pulling things together. So a lot of question marks being asked, and there could also be a possibility that civil aviation experts are talking about that they could have put foam on that entire runway and try to deaccelerate the plane. Question marks being raised, and where exactly and what went wrong with the pilot. I think the black box, they have been able to locate the black box, which is a very crucial part of any, disaster like this. And I think we'll get more answers once those black box and the details of it are explored further by the investigating agencies, and we get answers. Question marks, a lot of question marks being raised, but we'll surely looking forward to getting some answers once those joint investigation teams come together and, analyze this problem in a much better fashion.
All right, Anil, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details.